And what John wants us to know in verse number 14 is that this God-man became flesh. To say he became flesh is to give the counterbalance to his divinity, that he was also human, that he was divine and he was human. And I'm going to make this really, really practical in just a moment. I know I've taken you through philosophy class, theology class, and now let me get you to the practical reality of this. But it's so important that we have a proper understanding of Jesus. To misunderstand Jesus is to misunderstand salvation. You don't have to be a theologian. Every one of us doesn't have to be a theologian, but there are certain areas of understanding that we have to get right. And we have to get an understanding of Jesus right, that he is divine, fully God, that he is human, fully man. And why is that so important? It is because there is an ought between God and man, namely sin. Sin has separated us, men, from a holy God. And so all of creation, all of humanity, man has been separated from God because of our sin. And the cry of the human heart is, how can I be right with God? How can I be reconciled with God? How can I and God be reconciled one to another? And who better to step into the courtroom of heaven to reconcile the case between God and man, but the God-man, Jesus Christ. Praise be unto God that Jesus Christ is fully God and fully man, meaning that he is adequate and equipped to reconcile and arbitrate between God and man, making union with us. And so because of him, he is our high priest. Because Jesus is our advocate, we who have been marred by sin and brokenness can now stand before a holy God, not on the basis of our merits, but on the basis of his merit. I want you to see that. I don't want you to miss that. That God, the second person of the Trinity, has stepped into humanity. And I want you to see something really quickly. I want you to see the great lengths he's gone through for you. Why has he come? For you. For you, sir. For you, ma'am. He has come into the world for you. He's on a search and rescue mission, and this is what makes Christianity so utterly unique. There is no other faith in all of the world that boasts of a God who creates, and then, after his creation is declared mutiny, steps into creation, steps into humanity, and rescues his creation through his own sacrifice. Jesus has done that for you, sir. He has done that for you, ma'am, so that you might know eternity with God. Don't miss the person of Jesus Christ. But also, John wants us to see the work of Jesus. Look at verse number 16. He says, for from his fullness we have all received grace upon grace. For the law was given through Moses, grace and truth came through Jesus Christ. No one has ever seen God. The only God who is at the Father's side has made him known. Notice what he says in verse number 16. For from his fullness we have all received grace upon grace. This is his way of trying to drive home with an emphatic passion how much grace we have received. Our salvation is totally a work of grace. To understand salvation is to understand that it is not earned. It is not earned. It is a work of his grace, that it's based off of his merits. What if salvation was based off of my merit? What if salvation was based off of my works? I would live a life of insecurity, and this is the truth for many, many religions. Islam, I even think of Jehovah's Witnesses that live a life of insecurity, wondering, have I done enough works to balance out the scale? Are my good deeds outweighing my bad deeds? Friends, salvation does not work like that. Salvation is a matter of grace upon grace. This is his way of saying you've received mega grace. You've received abundant grace. You've received grace upon grace. God has loved you so much that he is giving you salvation and supernatural strength. This grace is a power that is beyond ours. This grace is a divine power.